Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to host this event and to learn about the Mission Blue Butterflies with you. Uh, we are honoring the Mission Blue this year as our Earth hero for the year, and actually until next Earth Day. And we pledge to dedicate all of our efforts throughout the year to it. We pledge to learn about it and to teach others about the Mission Blue Butterflies, and that is why we're having this virtual talk. Joining me here tonight are two youth who are part of our junior Mission Blue crew, and I'll let them tell you about themselves, but please know we are very proud. Hold on. Sorry, but we are very proud. We're very proud to have them. So, Juliana.
Hi, my name is Juliana Wool. I'm a sophomore at Oceana High School, and I'm a member of the Junior Mission Blue Crew, as well as a junior site captain at Lindamar Beach. And I'm also part of the Ocean Conservation Club at Oceana.
Amelia.
Hi everyone, my name's Amelia and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I'm a member of the Mission Blue Crew, formerly known as the Junior Albatross, and we are a youth-led organization which carries out the mission of the Pacific Beach Coalition through actions such as volunteering through beach cleanups and other stuff like that. And last summer, I proposed the Mission Blue butterfly, an amazing, beautiful species, and I'm so glad that it was chosen.
Thanks, Amelia and Juliana. If you are a youth and you're interested in learning more and using your voice, we welcome you. We have junior site captain programs, and you can be a part of programs like this. Just a couple housekeeping things. I just want to let you know that we have a ask a question tab on the very bottom of your screen. We also have a chat on the right hand side of your screen. So if you'd like to tell us where are you from, that would be wonderful. Please be respectful. I want to welcome Sophie and Jason's class from Ocean Shore School and all of the students and teachers joining us here tonight. This program is for you as well as all of us. Please be respectful of the chat button. We'd like to not see like kind of little chit chat from like happened a couple last year. It's my pleasure and my honor at this time to introduce you to our speaker, Hannah Ormshaw. Hannah comes from Canada, and she has climbed the environmental ladder. Like many of our youth, Hannah spent time as a GGNRA volunteer. She came to San Mateo County Parks as a youth stewardship crew leader. Then she was a senior GIS intern. She became an assistant ecologist, natural resource specialist, and a natural resource manager, documenting, protecting, and monitoring the endangered species on San Bruno Mountain in San Mateo County Parks. This, I think, well, actually, I don't know, but this is why we invited her, because she's a specialist in Mission Blue butterflies and all the other endangered butterflies and species in San Mateo County Parks. Now, Hannah is in high places. She's the assistant director to all of San Mateo County Parks. Hannah, congratulations on your position, and thank you for joining us, and thank you for your work on San Bruno Mountain. Please take it over.
Thank you so much, Lynn, and thank you for having me here to talk with you all tonight. I'm just going to put up my presentation. Can everyone see? Can I just get a confirm that everyone can see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much. And like Lynn said, I'm Hannah Ormshaw. I'm the assistant director for the San Mateo County Parks Department, and formerly the natural resource manager. And in that role, I was also responsible for overseeing and implementing a lot of the activities for our San Bernardino Mountain Habitat Conservation Plan and a lot of our conservation measures for the Mission Blue Butterfly, which I'll go into some information about tonight. And so, well, most of the detail I'll be able to provide tonight will cover Mission Blue Butterfly, information about the species and its biology. I'm also going to be sharing some info on San Bernardino Mountain, the state and county park, where we have a habitat, a lot of high quality habitat for the Mission Blue Butterfly, as well as some other listed butterfly species, and talk about what our work as the San Mateo County Parks Department covers in terms of regular management and monitoring efforts for the species. And while there are other parklands in the region that support populations of Mission Blue Butterfly, including some Golden Gate National Park recreation area lands near Pacifica, most of what I'll be able to share will have to do with our San Bernardino Mountain population. So San Bernardino Mountain has what is called a habitat conservation plan, which covers all of the parkland as well as some of the neighboring cities. The Habitat Conservation Plan is a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service management plan and permit document, and this guides the county and the cities that are included in the plan on actions and requirements for protection and conservation for this federally listed species. So this plan came into effect in the 1980s, and it's really meant to help protect and manage the habitat in perpetuity, while also permitting a limited amount of development to occur in the areas surrounding San Bernardino Mountain. And so our San Bernardino Mountain, it provides habitat for 4 federally protected butterfly species, including the Mission Blue Butterfly, our species of focus for tonight. But there's also habitat for Calliope silver spot butterfly, San Bruno elfin butterfly, and bay checker spot butterfly. And there's also potential habitat at San Bernardino Mountain for San Francisco garter snake and California red-legged frog, which are other protected species as well. So butterfly species are very closely tied to their host plants, which I'll go into a bit more detail about. And so they rely on specific plants for their larval feeding, their egg laying, and the pupation stages of their life cycles. And so in areas where their habitat is known and their host plants are present, we treat all of these host plants as though they could have an egg or a larva or a pupa on or around the plant. And so we treat them with extra care and make sure there are no impacts to the species during these parts of their life cycle, because especially when they're in larval phases or as eggs, they can be very difficult to observe, if not impossible. And so our best practices are to be very sensitive around areas where their host plants are. So getting into Mission Blue Butterfly in a bit more detail. So the Mission Blue Butterfly is a federally endangered species, and it's protected under the Federal Endangered Species Act. At this time, the vast majority of the remaining habitat for Mission Blue Butterfly exists in publicly protected lands. So the threat to habitat loss from development or destruction is minimal at this time, but there are still impacts possible from habitat degradation, such as invasive species or shrub encroachment. Grassland loss is a concern. And there's also potential impacts from fungal pathogens that affect their host plant. San Bernardino Mountain is has a population that's estimated around 18 to 20,000 adults. And the skyline ridges near Pacifica support approximately 2,000 adults. And there may be as many as 500 Mission Blue butterflies that live at Twin Peaks. There's also a significant population in the Marin Headlands. But there isn't a full estimate on what that population size is. So Mission Blue requires its larval host plant and appropriate nectar plants in a coastal grassland habitat in order for its desired habitat requirements. So its host plants are primarily the silver lupin and the summer lupin, which is Lupinus albifrons and Lupinus formosus for their scientific names. They have a variety of different nectar plants that they'll use, but this often includes several members of the sunflower family, and they're often growing in association with lupins. The remaining populations of mission blue butterfly are found only in a few locations around the San Francisco Bay Area, including the Marin Headlands, the Skyline Ridges, San Bernardino Mountain, and Twin Peaks. But it's likely that the historical distribution for the species encompassed much of the coastal scrub and grassland areas in northern San Francisco, in the peninsula, and in Marin County. So just a little information about identifying differences with the species itself. So what you can see here is an image of the male and the female adult butterfly. For the adult female, on the upper side of the wings, it has some brown and some blue. So that's the butterfly you see on the right-hand side with the brown, and the male is usually all light blue on the upper side of its wings. Both have blackish edges to their wings, and on the underside of their wings is an off-white color with rows of irregularly shaped black spots. The larva, which you'll see an image of on the next slide, is light green and has a white diagonal bar on each side. The adults are about the size of a quarter, and the larvae can be very small, maybe up to a centimeter in length, and are often rarely seen. The eggs for the mission blue are usually laid in single, individual eggs laid on single lupin leaves, usually on the upper side of the leaf, but they may also be laid on other parts of the plant, such as the stem, flowers, or seed pods. The females lay these in single, just on their own, but they'll often lay dozens of, up to a few dozen eggs each day over their lifespan. And the adult phase for a mission blue butterfly is about 7 to 10 days long. So each female could be laying up to a couple hundred eggs over their lifespan, depending on how successful they are. The eggs usually hatch within 6 to 10 days of being laid, and then they're in their first and second instar phase for their larvae. And at this point, they're feeding on the host plant and growing in size. After about 3 weeks of feeding, the second instar larvae begin diapause, which is a period of dormancy for the larva. And then they move down into the litter at the base of the host plant. The diapause begins around the same time that the lupin shifts their energy from leaf maintenance into flower and seed production. The larvae remain in diapause until the next spring, so they stay in this phase through the summer and the winter, and they'll emerge again to continue feeding the next spring. Then they go into pupation phase, and this usually lasts about a week. And this occurs again in the duff at the base of the host plant or in other plants that are nearby. After this point in time, they enter their adult phase, and the adult flight period lasts between March and June each year. The adults live for approximately 7 to 10 days, and the females then start the cycle over again and lay eggs on the host plants. And so this is the complete cycle for the mission blue butterfly, and it lasts 1 year. The mission blue larva will only feed on the host plant for 3 lupin species, with Lupinus albifrons and Lupinus formosus being the more preferred species of lupin, but they may also use Lupinus variecolor. And then the adults will drink nectar from various composite flowers like sunflowers, and they use a long tube called a proboscis, which extends from the underside of their head in order to feed on the nectar of these wildflowers. The mission blue larvae, they spend most of their time feeding on the lupin leaves. And they also can be active, the larva can be active in a variety of weather conditions. However, the adults, during their short lifespan, they really spend the majority of that mating, laying eggs, and feeding or nectaring. And so part of their behavior while they're adults is to locate a mate, and they will do this by patrolling different patches of host plants, moving up along ridge lines, and they very often stay very close to these areas where there are lupin populations present. They also aren't very active unless the weather conditions are ideal, so they're more active on warm, sunny, low wind days, and they're more likely to be hiding out underneath the vegetation on rainy, cool, or foggy days. So at San Bruno Mountain, there is a wide range of different habitat types present. We have a lot of coastal scrub and ridgetop areas that are really affected and influenced by the coastal fog. We have more dry, sunny grassland areas, a lot of diverse wildflower species, a lot of rare plant species as well. But for most of our butterfly species, especially the mission blue butterfly, it's really the grassland habitat that is really critical habitat area for these species. And so I'm just going to transition a bit to talk about the work that we do with the San Mateo County Parks Department to monitor and manage around mission blue butterfly and the other butterfly species at San Bruno Mountain. So part of our activities include annual monitoring for mission blue butterfly. So we go out during the adult flight period and conduct visual surveys for the adult butterflies. We also do a lot of habitat enhancement and habitat restoration work for mission blue butterfly, and focus a lot on invasive species control and scrub management and other grassland management efforts within their high quality habitat areas. And so a little more information about our monitoring work. So the monitoring protocol we use helps give us an observation index for the overall population density. And so this is to help us look at create population estimates and help look for population trends at San Bruno Mountain. And it really aims at collecting the peak density during the flight season to try and extrapolate that out to an overall population size. And so what we do is we used fixed transects, and we survey these between 4 to 6 times in a flight season when the weather conditions are ideal. So those warm days with low wind. And we have had assessment efforts done to help sort of analyze the overall population for mission blue, and really look at all of the data that's been collected over time throughout these monitoring efforts. And it's apparent that the Mission Blue and Clippy Silver Spot populations that we're monitoring for through this fixed transect methodology are continuing to be stable, especially in high quality habitat areas. However, there are some areas with more marginal habitat that we are unfortunately seeing some lower population numbers overall. And so the last year, so 2021, we had completed a round of our fixed transect monitoring efforts. So this would have been the 8th year since these fixed transects were established that we've done species monitoring. We observed a total of 180 Mission Blue butterflies on 8 of the 13 transects. And the numbers that we work out to estimate population size uses a metric called sightings per hour. So how many butterflies we encounter while we're out observing for them during an hour of time. So what we're seeing at peak period during the flight season was about just under 7 butterflies observed in an hour. And so if you were to start to kind of extrapolate that out over, their entire population range or their habitat areas throughout the park, you'd be able to try and understand how that density translates to total population size. So this is just a map that shows where we do our monitoring, where we're seeing a lot of butterflies. The white dots are historical observations, so where we've seen a lot of Mission Blue butterflies throughout all of our monitoring history, where the blue dots are all of our observations from our last monitoring year in 2021. This is just some of the data on our sightings per hour, both average and maximum over our monitoring period. So you can see there's some areas, wherever you have a higher number, in some instances in 2021, we were getting up to 22 observations in an hour, some close to 18 or 15 observations in an hour. So for us, it may seem like a small number, but that's actually pretty active for, a good monitoring day to be able to see that many butterflies in that amount of time. Another effort that I'd really like to highlight that really does connect San Bruno Mountain with the Golden Gate National Recreation Area and the National Parks lands that support Mission Blue butterfly is that the San Mateo County Parks Department has partnered with the Golden Gate National Park Service and the San Francisco Parks and Recreation Department with permits from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in order to conduct Mission Blue translocation efforts. So San Bruno Mountain, it has the most robust population of Mission Blue in the area. And so it acts as essentially a parent population for these adjacent areas. So each year, San Mateo County Parks, along with these park agencies, work together to capture and relocate a small number of Mission Blue butterflies. And then they get released safely into locations like Milagro Ridge or Sweeney Ridge or Twin Peaks. And this helps to sustain the populations at these locations and really supplement the genetic diversity for these populations as well. Another effort that we really work on is lupin mapping. So really, more concerted effort has been underway since 2017, where county parks staff have been completing mapping efforts of lupin patches that are present across San Bruno Mountain. And so this really helps us better understand the full extent of habitat in different areas across San Bruno Mountain, as well as in areas where the overall density and cover of this host plant is the greatest, and so where we may have the best or healthiest populations of mission blue, or at least good opportunities for them to have high quality habitat areas. So that is, most of the information I wanted to relay about San Bruno Mountain and Mission Blue Butterfly, but I know a big piece of this being Earth Day is being able to know how you might be able to contribute or give back to butterflies in general, or to the Mission Blue butterfly. And so, the one opportunity I would like to highlight is that the San Mateo County Parks Department does host various volunteer opportunities at San Bruno Mountain, as well as many of our other park sites as well, that focus on habitat restoration. But at San Bruno Mountain specifically, a lot of our events involve native planting efforts. So we'll put in what we call habitat islands, or more quaintly, a butterfly buffet, where essentially we're planting a number of nectar plants that are used by different butterfly species, including some of our protected butterflies. But we also do a lot of events that focus on weeding, so helping remove invasive plants from areas that support our butterfly species as well. We also have a really active San Bruno Mountain Watch partner group. So they also host a variety of volunteer events that also focus on habitat enhancement and habitat restoration to benefit the butterflies and also to benefit other rare plants at San Bruno Mountain. Another thing that I just wanted to highlight is that there are a lot of resources out there if you're interested in butterfly gardens. And so, a way you can help promote butterfly habitat in your own backyard. For butterflies in general, I wouldn't suggest that you may be able to observe Mission Blue in your backyard. Unfortunately, they do have some pretty specific habitat requirements, but there are a lot of other native butterfly species that use a pretty wide variety of habitat types and are fairly common in a lot of different areas, including other parklands and, throughout other, open space or garden type habitats. And so a way that you could contribute to butterfly habitat by gardening in your own backyard could be introducing larval food plants or nectar plants to your gardens. So most butterflies will feed on flower nectar, and there are ways in which you can, plant clusters of wildflowers in condensed areas, and it will give them a chance to sample and feed on a variety of different wildflowers in a small and condensed area. And a good butterfly garden would be sheltered from areas of strong wind, and so provide that sort of sheltered, protected area, and as much as possible be in an area where they may be able to get good access to sunlight, since a lot of butterflies do depend on sun's warmth for their mobility. And so there are a huge variety of different wildflowers that could be used as nectaring plants for butterflies. So some of these include the sunflower family, the Asteraceae, but other species could include native daisies, yarrow, pearly everlasting, even species like coyote brush can also be used as a nectar plant. And there's a lot of resources online, but one I would point to would be the California Native Plant Society. They have a web page specific to butterfly gardening, or at least, a highlight on different tips for butterfly-friendly gardening and the types of species that you might be able to introduce if you're interested in that as an option. And with that, I did turn it over to the question and answer period.
Wow. Thank you, Hannah. There's so much. I know that for me, I'm going to watch this a couple times because there's a lot of information to digest. And it's very interesting. Even the anatomy of a butterfly and all the different intricacies that go on, but also the way to save it. I guess the first question I have is, why is San Bruno Mountain, Milagro Ridge, Sweeney Ridge, the few places that the butterflies exist, why are they in those locations? And why can we not expand those locations to other places?
Yeah, so they do have pretty specific habitat requirements. It's not just about the presence and availability of lupin. They do really like these open coastal grassland habitats, and oftentimes are located on upper ridge lines of some of these mountains or ridge areas, so like the skyline ridges where Milagro Ridge and Sweeney Ridge are, or San Bruno Mountain. So, their habitat is generally in these coastal grasslands along these ridge lines, and where we have bigger, more expansive coastal grasslands. And so there's a requirement in order to, for the population to sustain itself, essentially, there's like a minimum sort of patch size needed for amount of lupins, diversity of lupins, availability of nectaring sources in order for the populations to sustain themselves and be able to reproduce and mate and oviposit successfully. And so there are studies on this, in terms of understanding their metapopulations and these habitat requirements. But essentially, if there's too small of a habitat area, or that's too geographically separated from other metapopulations, it's less likely to be able to sustain a mission blue population over the long term. And so with these open spaces and these parklands, we do have the opportunity to try and maintain and preserve these larger swaths of grassland and see, these bigger patches of lupin preserved. And so, with human development and habitat fragmentation, these are limited to some of these more distinct areas that might have been much more widespread historically, when these habitat types were more prevalent and more widespread. But at this time, they are a bit more limited in where there is suitable habitat for them in the region. But the good news is that habitat is all in protected parklands. So,
Got it. Interesting. Amelia, do you have a question for us?
Yeah, I have a question. So why is protecting endangered species like the mission blue?
You cut off at the end there, Amelia, but I think I got the question. Why is it important?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so with really any endangered species, they're put on, the endangered species list, or given a status of being federally protected or federally threatened, because it's identified that the habitat that remains for them or the total population size for them is at a point where it is very limited, and if there is no effort made to try and prevent or protect those species, that they will be lost. And so that, that is the whole goal of the Federal Endangered Species Act and the State Endangered Species Act, to be able to identify when we have wildlife or plant species that have reached that sort of critical point where their size or their existing habitat is so constrained or threatened at this point in time that without any action, it's quite likely that that species would be lost. For butterflies in particular, they are a very important part of the ecosystem. Butterflies are a pollinator species, and so they play a really important role in plant reproduction. So they, by feeding on these wildflowers, by feeding on the nectar, they're picking up pollen, they're moving between wildflower populations. That's really critical for the reproduction processes for these wildflower species, for them to be able to reproduce and fertilize. Similar to other insects like bees, they're just an important pollinator species. And so they're a really important part of the habitat and the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about it. If the butterfly wasn't pollinating those, it would be a void for those plants. They may not, they rely on those butterflies. Is that the case, or are there other things that would take up the slack?
There's a multitude of different pollinator species that help. I'm not certain that there's specific wildflowers, or in the instance of, like, say, lupins or other species that are really closely tied to these butterflies, that they're dependent on mission blue specifically for pollination. There's likely other pollinators that help with the process. But in general, we want to be able to keep our butterfly species, including these, endangered and threatened ones, because of the role they play in the ecosystem.
Juliana.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for such a lovely presentation. And I have a question that was asked from one of the people who are watching, and this is pretty specific, but do butterflies have lungs?
That's a really excellent question. So anatomically, they have a different form of, like, metabolism, but I do believe they still, respire. But a lot of their, their activity and their circulation system and their metabolism is really dependent on, like, sunlight and energy. So that's why, they do really require good sunlight. They'll bask in the open sun and be able to sort of gain energy that way. And that helps with their metabolism processes, and helps them, get the energy they need, in addition to, their food sources, to be able to actually fly and mate and oviposit. So sun is a really critical part for butterflies to be able to actually function.
I think this is the burning question that we all have. Before I ask it, I want to remind everybody that Paula behind the scenes and Chloe are helping us with the questions and the that you guys are putting in, but also they're populating the chat with some links. So if you want to learn more about any of these topics, please go ahead and grab those links before they disappear. And you can always come back and watch this video and grab the links another time. And I know I will be watching this video more than once because there's so much information to take in. But the burning question that I think several people have asked, and everybody asked me, what specific things can we do to help the Mission Blue butterflies and all of the endangered butterflies?
Yeah, well, I think, like I mentioned, a really excellent opportunity to get involved, and that we, with county parks, and I know our other partner park agencies, really work to promote and do provide excellent hands-on opportunities to help Mission Blue butterflies and the other protected butterflies specifically, is some of our habitat restoration and stewardship events that we host in the parks. So that's really helping us out with on-the-ground work to help enhance and restore important habitat areas. We host multiple events at San Bruno Mountain, but also do other habitat restoration events through other parks as well. But for these efforts, with the work we do at the County Parks Department at San Bruno Mountain, and a lot of the collaboration we have with Fish and Wildlife Service around protection and conservation for Mission Blue. Our goals right now are to really protect and enhance the quality and core habitat areas that we have presently for Mission Blue, make sure those aren't threatened by further degradation or further damages from scrub encroachment or invasive species or pathogens. But that's what some of these volunteer restoration efforts and weeding efforts and planting efforts can help towards. And then we're also looking at ways in which we can try and expand their habitat within these parklands as well. So some of that looks like, where we have marginal habitat and more concern over invasive species encroachment or scrub encroachment, doing restoration efforts to really enhance the quality of those habitat areas. And so that's another focus of some of our restoration efforts, including our volunteer programs, is to work on some of those areas as well.
I also, one of the things I learned up at Milagro Ridge was they have an area blocked off and fenced off because they don't want dogs or animals or us walking in that area because we can damage the larva or knock off the eggs, I suspect. So respecting that protection methods, I think, is probably important as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
That. Yeah, sometimes I think we forget that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Lynn. And that would be the case for San Bruno Mountain as well. Really encourage enjoying the park. There's a lot of excellent trails out there, but there are a lot of areas where these host plants grow directly alongside the trails and throughout the grassland areas. And so recreating responsibly, sticking to the trails, following the park rules, which, at San Bruno Mountain means no dogs, no mountain bikes. It's really just, meant for enjoyment on foot so that we do, avoid impacts to, some of these sensitive habitat areas that are really right beside the trail.
Yeah. And we have the same problem here on our coastal trail, right? Is people going off trail and cutting corners and things like that, and then everybody follows, and then that area is not available for pollinating plants. So interesting, and that's something that we can all have a hand in. And I also think, like, raising our voice if we see someone, just trying to say, hey, please be careful because of this reason, and education is key.
Yeah.
Okay. Juliana, or is it Amelia? I forgot.
I think it's me. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Amelia.
Okay, so we have, yeah. Okay, so we have a question from one of the audience members. So can you expand on the role of natural disturbances like wildfires that are involved in the Mission
Yeah, so actually, San Bruno Mountain is a little bit unique in our park system in that we have had a number of fires happen on San Bruno Mountain over history. None have been particularly large. They've burned, a few dozen acres or so, but it's actually, considered a benefit for the grasslands to be able to have a periodic disturbance like that. And so, what some of the threats to butterfly habitat we see at San Bruno Mountain are scrub encroachment, overgrowth of non-native annual grasses. And so with the grass growth, what happens is, with a lack of disturbance like fire or grazing or herbivory, you get a lot of grasses growing very tall. They'll die back and then create what's called a thatch layer. So it's basically dead grasses laying down over the ground surface, and those build up on top of each other year over year. So you end up with a pretty dense thatch layer, and that can crowd out some of the nectar plants or the host plants. And so being able to have a natural disturbance regime helps reduce the overall thatch density and thatch cover, and also helps reduce scrub encroachment over time as well. And so it's actually a component of the habitat conservation plan to consider ways in which these types of natural disturbances like fire or grazing or herbivory can be used to help enhance habitat for the species.
Juliana.
Okay, so it looks like our next question is what is the peak season for Mission Blue butterfly sightings?
Yeah, so if you want to see the adults, the best time is between the middle of March to the middle of June. You might be able to see them early. I think we had a bit of an early year this year just because we had a pretty dry winter. So things got started a little early, but most years you'll see peak adult activity between the middle of March to the middle of June. And so, a day like tomorrow might actually be a perfect day to go out and look for Mission Blue butterflies. It's supposed to be pretty warm, pretty sunny, hopefully low winds, but if you're interested in going out for a hike, you might be able to see some tomorrow. But really any low wind, sunny day between now and June would be a great day to try and go see Mission Blues.
Wow. This is a good question. Is the fungal pathogen that threatens the Mission Blue host plants Thysapora? I can never say that. I know there's a risk that it may be introduced from habitat restoration. Phytophthora.
So it is not Phytophthora. I'm just gonna grab the name if I can quickly find it. So it is Collectotrichum lupinii. So it is not a Phytophthora that affects the lupin, but it is a fungal pathogen, and it can cause dieback in the lupin. And so one thing that we are working on at San Bruno Mountain to minimize the effects of the fungal pathogen is efforts for lupin diversification. And so that means, we're having seeding and planting efforts throughout their habitat where you're getting a variety of all three of their host plant species, the three lupin species present in the same area. So if the fungal pathogen were affecting one of the species more, then we would still have healthier, unaffected, Formosus or variecolor lupins that the Mission Blue could use instead. So that's one of our strategies to minimize the effects of this fungal pathogen.
Amelia.
Hi. So, an audience member was wondering, to what extent does planting lupin and composites in our gardens and hillsides help?
So I think that because, part of the reason why, mission blue and some of these other species are considered endangered is because they are essentially specialists when it comes to their habitat requirements. They need some pretty specific conditions for their habitat, and so there would certainly be benefit to planting some of these nectar plants, planting lupin. Lupin itself is a very hardy plant, and a great addition to a hillside and a garden, but there may be other factors related to slope, extent of grassland, sort of total overall lupin patch size and density that might limit the suitability for mission blue itself. But it would definitely benefit butterflies regardless. So I would say it's still a great option, and you might get a lot of benefit for plenty of our other native butterfly species.
Juliana.
Okay, so our next question is also from an audience member. Are there protection laws in the San Francisco Bay Area to protect the habitats of the mission blue from developments? And they're wondering particularly in the Daly City, Serramonte Ridge area.
So for the area around Daly City, it would depend where specifically, but there are areas in Daly City, in South San Francisco, and city of Brisbane that border around San Bruno Mountain that are also included within the Habitat Conservation Plan area. And so there are certain requirements and certain specifications that the Habitat Conservation Plan has in order to benefit mission blue, Calliope silver spot, bay checker spot, San Bruno elephant, and the other protected species in order to optimize for habitat protections and conserved habitat and responsible development. So there may be areas still where, housing developments have gone in within the Habitat Conservation Plan area, or there may be new homes built, but there's processes in place within the Habitat Conservation Plan that optimize for habitat protections and helping to increase and contribute to the conserved habitat areas.
I think we're getting to the end of our time, so I think we'll go one more round of questions, and then we'll give you a little moment to see if you want to say anything else. My question is not a hard question, I don't think. Is there a mission blue population in San Pedro Valley Park or on Bernal Hill? Do you know?
As far as I'm aware, there have been no observations for mission blue at San Pedro Valley or at Bernal Hill. There are a lot less open grassland areas, up near the top of Montara Mountain. We have a lot more coastal scrub areas. There are likely candidate habitat areas for San Bruno elfin in some of those upper portions of Montara Mountain and some of those coastal scrub areas, but because there's less overall open grassland, it's not as likely that mission blue would be inhabiting those areas.
Is the coastal scrub encroaching because we don't have any fires anymore? Is that one of the concerns that we have, or something that we could bring back to kind of protect some of these open spaces and the grasslands?
Yeah, I mean, coastal scrub is a native and desired, vegetation community. So, there is a definite connection between the lack of natural disturbance and disturbance in general. Like, we have fewer populations of native grazers in the area. So deer or tule elk, we don't have tule elk in the San Francisco Peninsula anymore. And so grazers like that historically would have helped keep some of these grassland areas more open. And it is definitely more likely over time that the scrub has just encroached into these grasslands and now has become coastal scrub dominant. But the fire history and just other grazing history would have been processes that historically would have kept more grassland present throughout the Santa Cruz Mountains range and throughout the San Francisco Peninsula.
Yeah, I know at Pedro Point, when we've been doing the restoration up there, that was one of our concerns, was how do we protect the grassland, because it's all getting taken over and the trees coming in. So that's interesting. Next question.
Hi. So this is a bit of a personal question. So I was wondering if you could explain the relationship between the mission blue butterfly and ants.
Yeah. So ants and mission blue butterfly larvae and other butterfly larvae, they'll actually create what's kind of like it's an excrement from the larva, but it's kind of like a honeydew, almost like nectar attractant to ants. And the ants actually help they have this symbiotic relationship where the ants feed off of this, and the larvae sort of excrete this to feed the ants, but the ants also help deter other potential predators for the larva, and they are really seen in close conjunction with each other while they're in their larval phases, and they coexist really closely together during that phase.
Terrific. Good question, Amelia. Juliana.
I also had a more personal question, but I was wondering about some of the opportunities for youth to get involved with the San Mateo County parks and helping the Mission Blue Butterfly.
Yeah, so I would have to look at the calendar for when the next events we have coming up are, but right now at this time of year, we're really transitioning into a sort of the weeding season in terms of our volunteer events. We try and do our planting events during the fall and winter, try and take advantage of the rains we get when we get them. But we'll be having different events throughout the spring and summer months that'll focus on different weeding events at San Bruno Mountain to remove some of the invasive species that are present in their habitat areas.
I'd also like to invite the youth to kind of learn about propagating native plants and collecting seeds. We have an opportunity. We have an opportunity right here in Pacifica. The Pacifica Gardens has just installed and is growing a native plant garden, and having people come in to plant things. I think on Saturday there's a work day starting at 11 o'clock, I believe, to try to transplant some native plants into seedlings. And that'll give you an opportunity to learn about nurturing and growing native plants from seed. And it will also help grow plants for our restoration work for the Pacific Beach Coalition and other organizations and schools that want to create little butterfly patches and native plant islands. So there's also a mountain watch, I think, in San Bruno. Am I saying,
Yeah.
is that the right mountain
Yeah,
watch? I don't know.
San Bruno Mountain Watch, and they have Mission Blue Nursery as well. So they do a lot of stewardship work at San Bruno Mountain as well, have various volunteer events, and they also have volunteer days at their nursery that do focus on helping out with plant propagation, with just plant care and native planting. So that's another great opportunity.
Yeah. And the Beach Coalition also has habitat restoration usually the fourth Sunday. But in April, it's going to be on April 23rd with our Earth Day event. So there are so many opportunities, and really the youth are really going to power us, right? They're going to inspire our parents and our aunts and our uncles, and they can kind of keep us fortified. So I invite you to please to participate yourself, but bring your friends, right? It seems to be a lot of fun when your classmates come. And Juliana, I want to commend you for bringing your class of the sophomore class of Oceana to Lindemar on March 19th for the cleanup. Even though it threatened rain, you guys all came out in force, and that makes a huge difference. And giving your friends an opportunity to join and have fun when they would maybe have been staying in bed is a big help to the environment. So thank you so much. I so appreciate, Hannah, all the information you shared with us. We will be posting this on our website and social media, and we'll probably try to get it on YouTube. I want to thank behind the scenes. We have Hardy, we have Paula, we have Chloe, we have our webmaster, Celine, that's helped us to make this happen and create the posters. I want to thank our youth who joined us tonight, Juliana and Amelia. And I want to invite everybody to join us for Earth Day coming up. It's really Earth Month. So get out your pickup stick or get out your bucket, go out wherever you are, pick up litter, whether it's in a parking lot when you get somewhere or before you leave or your own street. Please think about that. Picking up litter is very important. Gardening is very important. Restoring habitat. If you'd like a poster for your organization or your business, we have posters. You can contact info@Pacific Beach Coalition, or you can reach out to one of our members and we'll be happy to get you one. We take action on April 23rd all together as a group. We expect probably 25 different cleanup and restoration events. I would like to invite you to join any one of them. If you have a team or a group and you want to take on a special project, a beach that we don't cover, not in Pacifica, we got them all covered, but a project that we don't cover, please, we invite you. 3 people can make a difference, and we're happy to support that. Hannah, do you have anything more you want to say?
Just thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you tonight, and thank you so much for the care and attention to the Mission Blue butterfly. It's a really special species and very near and dear to my heart. So I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to highlight it, and I'm pleased that your group has been interested in highlighting it for this year and being able to dedicate a lot of your efforts and your focus on the species.
You got it. And Hannah, hopefully when we can meet back in person, we'll do a live event. And we'll be happy to have you come back, and maybe we can reach a new audience as well. And guys, I want to invite you, please, take action. Take action. Use your voice. Learn more. Do whatever you can. Teachers, thank you for sending your students today. We have a teacher module that Chloe's put together that's absolutely spectacular. It's about the Mission Blue and other butterflies. And whether you're a homeschool or you're a student or you're a teacher, you can bring activities and lessons about Mission Blue. This program will be linked to that, but there also is an assembly that tells you all about butterflies from a basic level. And it's a beautiful, beautiful work of activities and Mission Blue information. So I invite you to check that out on our website. And I think Paula might be putting the links into the chat. So thank you all. Hannah, thank you. Hardy, behind the scenes. Thank you again for the surf movie and now for Mission Blue. And Amelia and Juliana, thank you. I think I'm going to call good night. It's about 8:08. And so good night to everybody. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.